Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leather Supply. Like most all of us leather crafters, I've got belts coming out of my ears. But what I don't have, a clean, sharp dress belt. From time to time, we need to dress up. Let's do it right. All right, so anything I use in this video, weaverleathersupply.com, or check below. We've got links there, going to take you straight to the website. Also, if you want to know when our videos release, just click your notifications. You'll know exactly when these come out. So let's step over to our pattern table, get started. We've seen this before, not an industry term. I just call it a shorty because it's a very easy way to get the perfect fit on a belt. Now here's how this works. So right here, I've got two red lines. I would like for my buckle to land on that second hole. That gives us room to come in, ample room to go out. So what I'm going to do is take my waist size, 35 inches, and I'm going to add 8 3/4 of an inch. All that is this is 6 inches, this is 2 3/4 of an inch. We add those together, that's our blank length. Now a little bit different for a dress belt. I'm going to go with a 1 1/4 inch width here. Down here I've got a 1 inch spread on our size holes, 2 inches to the end, and on this end we've got a 1 inch spread right here for our keeper. Now we're going to use a center bar buckle. We won't need a keeper, but we've got room there just in case. And then right here, 2 1/2 inch spread for our oblong. Okay, so we've got a good feel for our size. Let's step over to our main table, start cutting some leather. We're going with two different leathers for our dress belt. We're going to start right here. This will be our face leather. This is our Paulo. And this is a gorgeous leather. Now, I'd prefer to go black. Much more common for a dress belt. Hard to see in a video, but this is a beautiful leather. This is going to look nice. Now this is a 3 to 4 ounce, too light for a belt. So we're going to line this, and I see a lot of high-end belts do this. We're going to go with our Shaheen leather natural strap. This is a 4 to 5 ounce. We're going to leave it right where it is, no dye, but we are going to add a top coat. That's going to look clean. Now I'd prefer to go with something a little bit heavier than a 4 to 5. But first off, dress belts typically seem to be a little bit lighter weight, maybe a 7 to 8. But secondly, this is a more common leather in our shop. I'd like a 5/6, maybe a 6/7, but typically for us crafters, we're not going to have that. This is going to look good and feel good nonetheless. So let's start by strapping out our veg tan. Since we're going to line our leather, what I'd prefer to do is cut 2 straps at 1 1/2 inch. Then we're going to trim down to 1 1/4 inch. We're going to waste a little bit of leather, but we cannot help but have a perfect edge with 2 pieces of leather. So much easier than trying to glue 2 pieces and get a good edge. So with this, let's go with a 1 1/2 inch strap here. Now for my waist size, I'm 35 plus 8 3/4, 43 3/4. But what I'd like to do, let's cut this a little bit longer. Again, since we're going to trim to size. So let's go 1 1/2 inch by 45 inches. Okay, we've got our strap cut. So now, with our straight edge, let's cut this to 45 inches. Going to trim off just a little bit of the end there. And down to 45. Good. Okay, let's cut our Paulo. To save us a little time, I've busted a straight edge into our double shoulder. Some great points on our Paulo. First off, for us crafters, affordable. We can get this in double and single shoulders. 8 beautiful colors, and this is actually a veg tan. All right, so let's strap out 1 1/2 inches here. We've got that. Okay, let's trim this to size, 45 inches. Yeah, the worst part about belt videos, it's hard to get the whole belt in the shot. All right, let's reset. Glue our 2 pieces together. Let's go with a contact cement. Now, we could just tack this down with some white glue and then sew, but for me, the contact cement is going to make 2 plies feel, look, and react as 1 ply. But what I don't want over time, outside of our stitch line. I don't want our two pieces to separate, to dog ear. That looks terrible. Contact cement is going to keep that from happening. So on our two pieces, we're going to add contact cement to both. What I'd like to do, we don't have to get exactly up to the edge, but I'd like to get close to the edge. We'll trim some of that off, about 1/8 of an inch, then we'll stitch. So let's do our best to get close. And the easy way to do that, let's just lay our strap on the edge of our table and let's just brush off the table. And there we go, we've got glue right to the edges, both pieces. Okay, so let's give these about 15 minutes, let that glue set. We've given this about 10, maybe 15 minutes dry time. What we're looking for with contact cement, looks dry, feels dry, but it's tacky. That's what we want. Now, the only downside to contact cement, we have one shot to get this together. When this adheres, it's not coming back apart, which is one of the reasons why we're overcutting. So let's just do our best to lay this in to the edges, and we do not have to be perfect. That's not bad. Okay. Now, one of our rollers, we've got two sizes here. These are great. Let's just press this down, get a good bond. Good. There we are. That feels good and looks good. Actually, we've got a pretty good edge on both sides. I don't necessarily expect that. And again, right there, hope, not a strategy. All right, let's cut this to size. I'm going to trim off just a hair both ends. 43 3/4. Okay, we've got that. Now, let's do our best, new blade or sharp blade every time. I'm going to do my best to take off just about 1/8 from our edge. Yeah, there we go. That's what we're looking for. But now we've got a little bit of help. Let's go back over to our wooden strap cutter. Now let's come down to 1 1/4 of an inch. And we trim this side. So let's flip this around. We're going to strap this side. And there we go. Now we're wasting a little bit of leather. Right there, look at that. Beautiful edges on both sides. All right, let's mark our belt. With our pattern, we know our blank length is right. So on this end, all we have to do is mark and scoot. Perfect. When I put this belt on, my buckle is going to land in exactly that hole. All right, let's punch our round end, English punch, and oblong. Let's just punch our round holes while we're here. So on this end, we've got our 4 holes. This is where we'll secure our buckle. These are going to be rivet holes. So I'd like a smaller hole. That's going to give us a better bite on our rivet. So if we're going with a revolving punch, I would say the 3rd, maybe the 4th tube up. And this is a great buy for us crafters. It's a good, solid tool. It's our heavy-duty revolving punch. But also, great part, we can replace the tubes. I've used the largest so much that I've replaced that. But we can also go with a dry punch. So right here, let's go with our 1/8 of an inch for the holes on this end. All right, on the other end, let's open that up a little bit so this can accommodate most any prong on a buckle. Let's go with a 3/16 inch. And that looks good. Okay, on this other end, we're going to go with a 1 1/4 inch English punch. Kind of an obscure size for us crafters, but if we've got a 1 1/2 inch, that'll work. Okay, looks good. Other end, we're going to go with a 1 1/4 inch round end. Same thing, 1 1/2 inch will work. Good. And last up, the rule of thumb in leathercraft, 1 1/4 inch strap, 1¼ inch oblong. But I'd like to give that just a little bit extra room. So here, if we've got the 1½, this is going to work nicely. We've got that, and that looks good. Okay, back to our main table. Let's use an edger, both for our face leather and our liner. We're going to go with the number 1. This feels like about a 7 to 8, maybe a lighter 8 to 9 ounce. But let's go with the number 1 because really all we're doing here, we're just knocking off that hard top edge. Now with the Sao Paulo, our edger needs to be sharp, and we've got a good video on that. So I'm going to edge all the way around both our face leather and our liner. Good, we've got that. Okay, let's reset here. Let's add a top coat to our liner and our edges. We don't have to add a top coat to our liner, but I noticed the higher end belts always add a top coat to give this a little gloss. That's a nice touch. So we're going to go with our leather balm. This is a great buy for us crafters. This small 4 ounce goes a long way. So I'm going to apply this with fleece simply because that's going to hold a lot of our leather balm. I can cover a much larger area. We'll let that dry, then we'll come back and we'll buff that with just a simple cotton rag. So with this, the one thing I don't want here is streaks and bubbles. So let's just go very easy. Okay, we've got one pass. Let's come back, give it one more. And our second pass, okay, that looks good. Again, that's going to be a nice touch. So let's give that about 10 minutes, let that dry. Good, we've given this about 5, maybe 10 minutes dry time. Now let's come back with our cotton rag. Let's just buff in a nice gloss. Yeah, there we go. Starting to look good. There we are. Again, nice touch. Okay, let's come back and hit our edges. So, a couple of steps here. First off, I'm going to wet the edge on one side. Around the end. Okay, good. Now let's come back, wipe off the excess with our cotton rag. Now, with our burnisher, we haven't taken a lot off on our edge. So I'm going to start with this first groove, and let's just work our way down. Okay, we've got that. Now let's come back with the shank. Let's work this back and forth. In fact, yeah, there we go. We can start to see a little bit of the gloss coming through. And down to the end. Okay, yeah, there we go. That looks good. Now, one last step. Let's take our cotton rag. And there we are. We've got a good looking liner and our edges. Again, I'm just not sure the camera can pick up that good gloss. This looks good and feels good. Now, all we have to do, drop in a stitch line and buckle. We're done here. So let's step over to my shop. We'll sew this on our 303. We could absolutely hand sew this belt and it would be beautiful. But let's step over to our Weaver 303. And I love this machine. For those of us who don't sew for a living, we're not production shop sewers, this is very easy to maintain, thread, sew with. And the best part, we can slow this down to about 1 stitch per second, meaning we have total control over where that next stitch is going to land. So let's start on our bend back. Now our thread is going to go with the 92 in the brown. I'll start right here, sew all the way around, and then we'll overstitch right there. Okay, we've got that. We just have 2 more steps. It's a good looking stitch line. Very nice. Let's do one more thing before we add our buckle. As our needle exits the leather, we get this little bit of a pucker there. Let's just go back to our roller. Let's just roll down our stitch line. And it's a minor detail that nobody's going to see except us. Okay, let's drop in a buckle. We're going with a center bar buckle. Now, if we want to go with a heel bar in at Weaver, we've got all kinds of beautiful options. In fact, it's hard to narrow it down. But if we do go with a heel bar, we've got room for a keeper. But we're going to go with this center bar. I love this style of buckle. This is not pressed metal. That's a solid buckle. We've got it in the antique brass, nickel. And what I want to see on a black dress belt, we've got this finish in black. That's going to look sharp. So let's load our buckle, make sure we've got our prong in the right direction. Good. Okay. On our rivets, there we go, get that lined up. Good. On our rivets, we're going to go with a medium rivet, technically the 5/16 inch, and this is the antique brass. It's going to look good with our buckle. So let's bring one through, and I'm going to let this hang off the edge of my marble, simply so that buckle has room to move. And now we have a good, clean, straight shot at our rivet. Now our setter, this is from our 4-piece setter set, and it's a great set to have. We can set rivets, line 24, 20, and segment snaps, and it's got a nice anvil in it too. That's a big help in our shop. I have to say, that's a good looking dress belt. Let's get a little better look. I think we have a nice dress belt here. Well, first off, the veg tan. That's a nice touch. Makes it look like a high-end quality belt. Let's add a nice buckle to that. I love the antique brass. Very classic looking. We've got a good looking belt here. One more good point. When we line with veg tan, no risk of rub off. Very happy with this one. Business meetings, weddings, church, we're going to have the nicest belt in the building. This came out nicely. I hope your dress belt looks good, and I hope it makes you look good. Good luck with your projects.